Assalamu alaikum. Hello there. What about you? And welcome back to Are You Not Qatartained? The interviews podcast from Qatartainment in association with CinemaScholars.com. I return with an episode dedicated to leading ladies in front and behind the camera in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month 2024. Today I'm meeting actresses, directors, producers and writers to discuss their inspirations, their motivations, and these ladies are kick-ass. They'll take care of business, they're writing, directing their own movies, and for others as well. So first up, I have actress and mega influencer Alexis Wren. She's talking about her new sci-fi horror Latency, which you can catch in Novo Cinemas here in Qatar at the moment. Co-starring Hannah Luss, this is a very unique, scary movie, A Jacob's Ladder, if you've seen that, starring Tim Robbins, for the 21st century for sure. Do check it out if you can. Next, I talk to the lovely Shahla Omi, who talks to me about her Netflix show Chaos, as well as providing the voice for the female lead in the Pixar favourite Elemental, and she tells me how she approaches voice acting as well as her leading lady roles. Next up, quadruple threat Sarah Friedman. She shares insights on her new mental health comedy Heightened. This is a seriously laugh-out-loud comedy. It's available on Amazon Prime and anywhere else you want to get your videos on demand. It is very, very funny and also really insightful about mental health. So she wrote, produced, directed and starred in this movie. So it is well worth your time and I had a real treat talking to her. And then finally, we're heading into a spooky season and I have writer, director, and the very fun supernatural comedy Witchy Ways, Ms. Jean Clark. So as you can see, it's a real mix of pleasure in this episode. And as I say, we're lucky enough to gather these amazingly talented ladies for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The World Health Organization launched the Global Breast Cancer Initiative in 2021 to reduce mortality rates by 2.5% per year by 2040 to save 2.5 million lives through three key pillars of action on health promotion for early detection, timely diagnosis, and comprehensive breast cancer management. The Breast Cancer Awareness Month is celebrated globally every October to create awareness about breast cancer. Find out more at the World Health Organization website. And if anyone you know has suffered or is enduring right now, please lend your support to any local charity you can. So here we are. This is Are You Not Qatartained? The interviews. It's Ladies' Night. Enjoy.
I have to get out of here.
Touch me, baby, tainted love.
Omnia, are you doing this?
The Omnia will only do what you ask of it.
You are doing this. You are controlling me.
All I've had was the games. Game after game. Open the door and walk out.
The Omnia is with you. Always.
That was a scene from Latency. I'm so delighted to have with me Alexis Wren. How are you, Alexis?
Hello, I'm wonderful. How are you, Glenn?
I'm very, very well. Thank you for joining me today. So first of all, I just want to share with you the note I made when you come on screen in Latency. It goes like this. Wow. Alexis Wren bringing the sunshine and a gust of fresh air. So this seemed to be, I thought would be your role within the film. You are the audience. You are the key into the world of Hannah in this movie. We don't want to spoil any of the twists and turns, but when you first read the script, when you received it from James Croak, were you aware of those twists and turns, or were you like the audience too, went, oh, wow?
Well, originally I was like, oh, I don't want to do a scary film. That was my original. I was like, no, I don't want to. And there's a lot in here, and there's a lot of relevancy with what's going on in the world. So I read it, and I was like, you're right. You're right. So yeah, there's definitely that element to it.
James, of course, is the writer and director. This is by no means your first film, of course. So what was it like having him? He must have had everything storyboarded in his mind. He must have been very specific with the mise-en-scène and even things like your costume, because that's very specific as well. So what was it like working with James on set?
He was just the best. And I think that's what's so cool about working with someone who's like getting that big opportunity. Because I too feel that way. This is like my second major film. And so we both kind of came on being like, we're doing the thing. Like, oh my God. And we got to do that together. And so I think there was like, definitely we were eye to eye with each other on that. And that's what's so cool about doing a film is like everyone is there for the same objective to make a killer movie. And I really do relate to the character, like her sarcasm, her dryness, like her love, her compassion. Like I felt like she's just a part of me. So I didn't feel like I had to deep dive into someone else. I could really just bring out that side of me that I haven't been able to. So, and he gave me permission to do that. So I was really grateful.
Because like you say, you're somewhat a two-hander, if you like, between you and Sasha Luss, of course, who plays Hannah. How did you guys foster that relationship? Because sometimes you see in movies, well, they're the best friends, but you see them on screen and go, these guys have no chemistry whatsoever. But with you and Sasha, it felt really nice and just really nice to watch, which made the ending even a bit more impactful. But how did you guys work on that relationship off screen to make it project on screen?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was a fan of hers coming into it with Anna, and she's such an incredible actress. So I immediately was like, I just want her to like me, and I just want this to go good. And, it's nervous meeting someone new for the first time, especially someone that you need to create that deep of a relationship with. But I was so lucky that it was just so natural with her. And our personalities really blended well. And she's so good at the dark, like psychological, like she's just incredible at it. And so I really got to, if anything, I was just reacting to her darkness to try and compensate for it through the love that I had for Hannah. So it was really, the best acting is when you're just reacting. And that's truly what I felt like she gave me. She just gave me so much to work with that I could just like be there as a friend and just try and give levity to her no matter what, like so many things so seriously. And I'm like, there is light and love in this world. So it was fun to play that.
Yeah. And did you give Jen a backstory about how her and Hannah had met? Because we meet and you're fully formed best friends. And we know you are the gateway into the outside world. You bring her food, you do her laundry, you keep her energized. Did you guys work on a little backstory, like how you met maybe in college or something like that?
Yeah, I kind of created a made up story that a package got delivered, left that apartment. So I was trying to like figure out how they met, but they live in the same building. So I think it was something along those lines, like maybe 5 years ago. And obviously Jen is a huge gamer. So when she saw Hannah's setup, she was like, let me in here. What do you do? Can I get on that? And then once she learned, what was going on with Hannah, I think she did feel like a sense of responsibility to be there for her. Maybe Jen was also looking for some kind of purpose as well. So I think it blended really beautifully.
Yeah, that really comes across really well. So I'm not a gamer at all. I was always a movie guy when I was younger. This is a new world to you as well?
Yeah, I mean, so many people are in gaming nowadays, so it didn't feel too far off. Like my little brother is a huge gamer, so I just was like, okay, I get the lifestyle. You scream into a microphone, those are your friends, you've never met them, and you beat them at games. Sometimes you love them, and sometimes you hate them, and that's the gamer world. No, so it did feel pretty natural, just of where the world is right now.
It definitely is the world right now, definitely. I'm glad I'm not part of it, to be honest, like you say. Yeah, this virtual community, these virtual friends, as opposed to that fear of real life friends, that's why Jen is so important in the film. Yeah. So I just want to talk about, as a fellow podcaster myself, you have a new one coming out. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, it's coming out July. Super excited. Selfishly love being able to like have those conversations with people I've always wanted to talk to. So we're going to go all over the place, like researchers, conspiracy theorists. Like we're going, me and my sister, she's going to be the co-host with me. We're just going to deep dive into everything that kind of, I think, is the nuance of our personalities. And I think that's what's so cool about podcasts. And I'm sure you understand this if you have podcasts. It's the slow form content, and it feels most like real life than anything else online. And so for me, it just felt like, okay, I can still be on social media, but coming from this slow form, nuanced way, it just feels a lot healthier, because then people will see all versions of you as like a whole full being instead of a clip here on Instagram, a clip here on TikTok. Like it feels that all feels very fragmented. So I'm very excited for people to see me as a human, the human version of myself instead of this social media thing.
Excellent. So that's really exciting news. So I know from being a podcaster myself, it takes a will to make it exist, and it takes a long time, but it's ultimately so rewarding and satisfying. So best of luck with that for sure. And just one last thing, Alexis, over to you. Pitch latency for our viewers. Why should they go and see you and Social Us in latency?
Because it's relevant, and it's a conversation that we need to have right now in the world. As technology keeps advancing, we need to start to make sure that our intentions are correct, our values are aligned. You know, technology is not good or bad, it just is. So let's make sure whatever that is in alignment with our best interests.
Perfect way to end. Alexis, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. I wish you the best of luck, community, and with your podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it.
King of the goddamn gods. If I rule the world, humans, when they're not scared, they're not worshiping me. Every day would be the first day. I think my favorite is fire. Look at what we've done.
Miss Omi, how are you, ma'am?
Thank you, sir. Hello, Glenn, and hello, Qatar.
Wow. It's so funny to have the Middle Eastern, that beautiful rich tones coming in Zoom, not in person. Real treats. Okay, so we're talking about chaos. That's first of all, there's a lot to talk about. Paz. So I did my research into Greek mythology, and she is the queen of Crete, the mistress of sorcery. We need to see more of that in the show. And your daughter is Ariadne, of course. And also in mythology, you give birth to the not you, but your character. But give birth to the Minotaur, which I didn't realize. Is it preparation for the role? Did you do any Greek mythology research, or did you go from what was given to you in the script?
So I had studied Greek mythology in the past. What's so special about this script that the brilliant Charlie Covell wrote is that it is a reimagining of Greek mythology. So it's a retelling of it. And according to Joseph Campbell, who is the source of information for me, it is he thinks that Greek myths are meant to be retold and reinvented. So yay for that. The character Pasiphae that I play in Greek mythology, everything that you said is absolutely true, but she's been reinvented in this story. So now, instead of being the queen of Crete, she's the first lady. Her husband is the president. He's a totalitarian nightmare, very toxic human being that you find out why. And in Greek mythology, she gives birth to the Minotaur because I think it was Poseidon that caused her to fall in love with a bull, and so she mated with a bull and gave birth to this being that's half human, half bull. But on our show, well, I don't want to give away how her son becomes the Minotaur, but at the beginning of the show, she thinks that her son is dead, so she's a grieving mother, and for 30 years she's been grieving. And every year, what she does. Have you seen the show at all?
Oh, yeah, I have so many questions about that. Just that first episode.
Great.
Please continue. Yes.
Yeah. So on this show, she's grieving, and for 30 years, on the birthday of her son and daughter, they are twins. She thinks that her daughter killed her son as a toddler. She thinks that she rolled on top of him and suffocated him. And her daughter, Ari, as short for Ariadne, is such a good human being, played by the beautiful Leila Farzad. She's just such a good girl. She cares about people. She's kind. And yet, because in my mind, she killed my little boy, I'm angry at her, just full of toxic anger. And so I don't want to give away too much, but she's wrong about what she thinks. And so it changes her relationship with her daughter at the end.
Yeah, so when we first meet her, like you say, she's a grieving mum, so it's a very human story. And you get a first scene where she's having her daughter stand so she can be sculpted, and her son,
Yes.
like, and you think, oh, this is just dreadful, dreadful. But you get she's a grieving mother. But I just wanted to ask you about that scene where they've had this ceremony, obviously a defacement, and you go into that bedroom and you have all the different sculptures. What was your reaction when you first saw it as an actor in that room and seeing this really terrifying image of all the ages of the sun that have been sculpted every year? It's like, whoa, macabre, come on.
Len, I'm so glad you noticed that. I was stunned. It was so creepy. And when I first auditioned for the role, I had no idea that these were going to be life-sized renditions of how my son would look at every age. I mean, there's like 30 statues in that room, waxworks from when he was 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 18, 19, now he's 30. It was so macabre and creepy that's when I realized the character I'm playing is a little cuckoo. And I didn't know this, and I'm so glad I didn't know it because I didn't play her crazy. But yeah, the grief had made her crazy and an alcoholic.
Yeah, we get that too. And like I say, she is very much the first lady. She's disgruntled. She doesn't want to be there. Has the sort of Jackie O costume at the ceremony. She doesn't want to be there. She wants to get back to the bottle. Absolutely. Yeah, we can get their point of view for sure. Yeah. So we've had our 8 seasons. It's so binge-worthy, and I just had a really good time watching it. It's really my job.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad you watched it. It's such a good show, and I feel like a lot more people need to see it because it's so good.
Yeah, and it's for our time. It's so binge-worthy, and you have so many different characters, and like we say, the interpretation of the Greek mythology. It needs to be repeated and reshared because I'm such a fan of literature anyway. Any way we can get these stories that perhaps young people don't realize they're watching mythology and go, this is based on something? Oh, check that out. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I love that there's a message in it too. I mean, it's not very message heavy, but it's a beautiful message about humanity, that humanity is just so much more rich and special than the ideologies that we have, whatever those ideologies.
Exactly.
That humanity is where it's at, in our love and humanity and connections.
Yeah, it's warming as well. And it's so dark and so darkly humorous. And because,
right.
Yeah. And of course, we have to talk about the show's leading man, Mr. Goldblum.
My God. Did you know he was my acting teacher many years ago?
I was going to ask another acting teacher you had, but tell me about...
Exactly. Yeah, Jeff Goldblum. So I used to study for about 6 months. I studied at this school of acting called Playhouse West. And so Playhouse West was created by students that were students of Meisner. Jeff Goldblum is a Meisner student himself. And something that I noticed about him right away is that he is so interested in other people. And that's really what he taught me, was to be interested about everything. And he's a very interesting, he's eccentric in the most wonderful ways, but I don't know if you've ever met him or interviewed him. You feel seen because he just sees you. And he's just a lovely, wonderful human being.
And that's all I wanted to ask. Is he as he seems? Because we see him in interviews and we just imagine that even whatever film he's in, be it Thor Ragnarok or on Chaos, he used to come on to set in his own clothes and just go, oh, we're filming, let's go.
Totally. I heard that he, I didn't have any scenes with him on this show, but I heard that he improvs a lot. And so some of his improvisation actually made it into the story. Yeah. And he's so stylish. He's so handsome, but those tracksuits, he looks like a mafia guy with those tracksuits.
And he pulls it all off, of course. Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to know.
Hera. So sorry.
Oh, could you go ahead, please?
Just Hera, played by Janet McTeer. What a beautiful, stunning, powerful woman. And they were such I just loved that couple.
Yeah, God and Goddess, how can we say?
God and
Goddess. Good casting, for sure. Okay, I just want to talk about another role that our readers, viewers will know you for. Of course, Elemental. You were the voiceover for Cinder. Wow, what a magic movie that was.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, it was such a beautiful romantic comedy. I mean, really, I was speaking to someone the other day about how, you know, children that grow up these days, they grow up with the cartoons of Disney and Pixar, and they're like, they're like seeing the most incredible storytellers and writers in the world tell stories to them, that the children's tastes have become so sophisticated. I mean, even at the age of 3, they watch cartoons that are made for grown-ups.
Yeah.
And they're just so sophisticated and just smarter than I remember we used to be.
Yeah, because I have a 3-year-old son myself, and yeah, that's what he comes out with. I go, where did he learn this? Where did he learn this turn of phrase? And then you watch an episode of Bluey, and go, oh, parenting.
What is his
like
name?
that.
What's your son's name?
I have George, who's 7, and Harrison, who's 3.
Oh, George.
Yeah, and Harrison's going to be 4 next week. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, I wanted to get them into Pixar very, very quickly. Toy Story first, of course, and then we'll take it from there.
Right.
Of course, we'll get to Elemental. So I just wanted to ask that I read that the director had you in mind for the role because their character was based on his mother. Is that right?
Yes. Peter Son. So he's a Korean American, and his parents were Koreans, and I think they were first generation. And you know, like parent immigrants, all of us that are immigrants, and our parents came here and made sacrifices. We're a special type of people. We're very, very similar, regardless of whether we're Korean or living somewhere else from Iran or anywhere in the world. There are certain characteristics and traits that we all have. And thankfully, he found me, and I guess there was something about my voice that reminded him of his Korean mom. So, and I am first generation. So I was born in Iran, but I live in the U.S. So I guess I'm first generation, yeah, as his mom was. So.
I want to ask, just as we have lots of aspiring actors and writers who read our articles and listen. How do you approach voice work? Because I'm hoping to go into it myself later, but how do you approach a voice? Because I read recently about Josh Gad, and he regrets giving his voice to Olaf. He wished he put on a voice. So when you approach Cinder, did you use your own voice? Did you use an inclination? Was she somewhere else inside you? How did you approach? Because you do a lot of voice work anyway. But for a character like this, it's going to be so out there. How do you approach it?
Yeah. With voice work, you really approach it just like acting. You have to act and to be real, and to come from a place that's raw and real, so the person listening to that voice believes what you're saying. For Cinder, I had to come up with a little bit of an accent that in my mouth, that accent just turned into a slight Persian accent, even though I was going for something not human at all. With Peter Son, we were working on some accent that, like, if this was an actual fire person. And by the way, interesting note that I'm Persian, and the original fire worshippers were from Iran, Persian. So that was kind of something amazing, cosmic that happened. But I was trying to come up with, like, how would a fire character talk? And but slowly, some of my friends heard a little bit of Persian accent in that. But no, with voice work, it's just acting. But because you're not seen, you're a lot freer in your body. So it's like your body is overacting, but your voice is being very real. Even if you're playing a character, even if that, you're still, you want to be as real as possible, regardless of, where you put your voice to make it sound.
Wow.
But it has to come from truth.
Truth, like all accent. And I just want to quickly ask one more question. Oh, you work with Charlotte Hopkins as well. under his?
I didn't work with him. He was my teacher.
He was your teacher.
He was my teacher. Yeah. So what I did was after Playhouse West, I went to another acting school, and that's where Anthony Hopkins came in, and he was our masterclass teacher for about a year.
Wow. And what were his tips? Because he seems very laid back about acting. But I can imagine him being very intense in a moment. And you wouldn't be sure where you were with him, or was he very warm and welcoming? I'm guessing not to the same scale as Mr. Goldblum, but what were your main highlights?
Yeah, he's different, and I think the fact that he's British, it's a different type of laid back. He was very laid back, very down to earth. Definitely not like Jeff. But oh my goodness, I learned so much about acting. It just changed the way that I watch films. The things I like. You know what Anthony Hopkins does is that he has such a reverence and respect for the writer. So his acting technique is that he connects himself almost on a spiritual level to the writer. And he really believes that, in the same way that, with poets, you say you don't write it, it comes from somewhere else. He really feels like a good writer gets his information or their information from someplace else. So he connects to that. Whereas Jeff Goldblum's style is that he's just in the moment, and it isn't so much about the writing, but about the reactions and how you feel about the world that is created. I think, I'm speaking for them, but this was my takeaway.
Wow. It's just fascinating stuff. Like, look, you should do a masterclass yourself. It'd be amazing. Just from those things. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. It's something I've really, really enjoyed. And
Glenn, thank you.
I'll be spreading the word on Chaos as much as I can to all our readers.
Thank you so much. That just thrills me. I really wish that more people would watch Chaos. It's such a beautifully made show, and with just so much love and power. It really reminds me of Succession in a way. It's Greek mythology meets Succession. So people who, and you don't even have to know about Greek mythology to enjoy Chaos. So I hope more people watch it.
There we go. A perfect way to close. Thank you so much, Ms. Omni. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. Thank you. You too. Good night.
You're all here because you have something in common. You have trouble connecting with others.
I'm in this program.
You'll make fantastic little workers. You'll be shadowing Dustin.
You're Dustin?
Dusty. What do they call it? What you have?
Anxiety, misophonia, OCD.
Is it what?
Miss Friedman, how are you, ma'am?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much. So, Heightened, you're a quadruple threat in this movie. Writer, director, producer, star. So I'm interested to know, which role came first? Did you think, I will write something for myself to direct? I want something to write, star in, or I want to lead this? Because you've done plenty of shorts to get your acting and directing chops together, but this is your first feature film. So what was your journey to this point?
The intention with this one was always to direct and act. The writing is, I do love writing, but it is usually sort of a vehicle for a project for myself to direct or be in. And I had actually made Heightened as a short film in 2015. And that was before I really had directed anything. I was an actor by, training. And so I wrote that to try my hand at directing while casting myself in it. And so when it came time for the feature, I always knew I just was going to do the same thing.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about the movie. So I was all in after the first 5 minutes. So it goes with my theory on people. A person can be nice and great. People are awful. And that's just how I live. And my favorite quote of all time is Men in Black, where Tommy Lee Jones says, a person is smart, people are dumb. But of course, everyone has a story as well. Nora's story. So is Nora a side of you or someone you've encountered? Is it autobiographical? Is it based on research or just a hybrid of lots of experience?
Yeah, definitely a hybrid. It's not autobiographical, but I have struggled with anxiety and OCD my whole life. Mine manifests differently than Nora's in some ways and the same in others. I have definitely struggled with misophonia, which is the issue, the sensitivity to noises. But I like to think of Nora as myself if I hadn't had supportive parents and gone into therapy when I was young. She could be a version of me if I had to put up all this protective armor.
A heightened version, you could say.
Oh God, there it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I don't go too much into my own self, but 2 years ago, I finally got seeing someone about my abandonment trauma. And it explained so much. Just half an hour with this guy. And I said, do you do this? And he said, yes. And this has happened to you? And you feel this way sometimes? I said, yes. And then he just talked us through it. You're not alone. And those words, I said, wow. And without that session with that psychiatrist, that therapist, I wouldn't be here. Not saying I hurt myself, but he said, lean into what you love. Get rid of the anxiety. So I joined Cinema Scholars and I became a personal trainer. I started my own health awareness podcast because of just those 30 minutes where he said, this is how you're feeling and why. And then, like I said, everyone has a story. So why were you so committed to telling Nora's story about the anxiety? And everyone does have that story. I mean, we learn too, also main characters in the film, everyone, it's their moment. Did you go about writing that way?
Yeah, I really, I wanted to show to like people who might seem like villains. Of course, there are bad people in the world. There are many bad people in the world, but people who might seem like villains, or they're bullying, or, it's your mother and she's being overbearing. Like, what is going on with them that is making them this way? So I just wanted it was important to me to use this movie to maybe show that we could all have a little bit more empathy for each other. And then for me, I do think media in the last several years has gotten a lot better about portrayals of mental health. But when I was younger, I found everything was sort of the same. OCD was portrayed as like you had to be washing your hands all the time. I do wash my hands a lot, but I think a normal hygienic amount, right? That's not my compulsion. There are different manifestations of, and living with anxiety or OCD or whatever you're living with is different person to person. So I just really wanted to explore that and show that, and also maybe bring the audience in on the actual visceral sensation of what a panic attack could feel like.
Definitely. And there's so many little triggers that are funny. They are funny because there's such a sign of, oh yeah, just the fly when she's trying to go to sleep, that noise. So no, I'll be checking my bedroom tonight. And things like watching the guy eat and the close-up, those disgusting close-ups that you, oh no. How's that guy eating when people are doing an exam? I know. Get that guy out.
Get him out of there. Yeah.
Get him out of there.
Shout out to that poor man who had to eat grossest concoction that our team put together so that it would be extra gooey. So thank you to him.
There we go. Special effects in action. But yeah, so those supporting characters you had, I was so excited about the cast when I saw people on screen. I was so excited to see Mike Mitchell because I loved him in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes,
he was so great in that. And he's so good in this because in Nine-Nine, he plays a lovable idiot. Here, he's just a mean idiot. Until a little slice of his story. And then we have Xander Berkeley, who's like in everything.
Everything.
And of course, we have to talk about Dusty himself, Mike the Register, who is doing well in his TV show. So how involved were you in the casting process? Or are these guys handpicked because they're just so cynical in those roles?
Yeah, almost everyone was handpicked, or even a friend of mine or someone I had a connection to. Dave and I grew up in the same hometown. We've known each other forever. So he was always my Dusty. Mike Mitchell, I met several years ago when I used to work for a comedy TV network, and he had a sketch show. And so we met just that way. And I always thought it would be so fun to have him play against his type because he is so nice and so lovable. And then Xander and Sarah Clark, they live in Maine, which is where we were filming. and they were put forth as an idea by my casting director, and I had no idea that they lived in Maine at the time, and I was like, we have to try. That would be so incredible. And they signed on almost immediately.
Oh, that's so cool. Let's talk about some of the moments in the writing. Nora is hilarious. She made me laugh out loud so many times. And I think she definitely copyrights, merchandise, and fucking meditate. I want that as my ringtone. And just those little moments like that. But you kept so restrained as Nora. But did that lead to an extra edge to cracking and corpsing? Because what you were doing was so funny. Just her reactions and just like looks to people when they're doing things that annoy her. Did you really have to tie yourself down?
You know, that is kind of the part of Nora that's very within me. So, you know, just I loved when we all were wearing masks during COVID because no one could see the faces I was making. I make faces, and I just love that side of Nora so much. That all to me, what's so fun about her too is these truly incredulous things are sort of always happening around her, and I just wanted to put, you know, the audience in there with her, like my wonderful actor who plays Jim, the group therapy leader, when he just writes his name so massive in chalk, and it's like, why is this
as well
happening? And so, you know, so Nora doesn't actually talk that much because she also has social anxiety. So much about her is those reactions, those faces, just that kind of like, what? So it was very fun for me.
That's great. And the writing process as well. How important was for you to nail that opening scene when Nora meets Dusty for the first time? And those little interchange were again so funny. Your name isn't a name, it's an adjective. And you don't eat orange food. And you try to compliment it, but not fine. And just those little things.
Oh my God, for you. His delivery of that fine kills me. So what's really fun and interesting is those scenes, not the fine one, but the very first, the adjective, all that, are pretty much word for word from the short film. They worked so well in the short. They're probably the only scenes that are truly brought from the short into the feature and not really changed. The audience reaction to them years ago was just, got such great laughs, and the way that Dave would deliver some of them. So those were just kind of like, I didn't have to do any work on those. Those were already there. And so much too comes from, you know, Dave's delivery and his wonderful way that he plays this character.
Oh yeah, he's just so earnest, and the impact on Nora is pretty much instantaneous. You know, she starts to let her hair down, she starts to dress pretty, and all those. Yeah. You just think, but part of the audience, do we want them to get together or not, or just be friends? Was there ever a time that you went back and forth, going, "Do I want them to get together because they're so good at double acts"? Was there any day as your writer think, "What do I do with this?"
Well, you know what ended up really pushing me towards more of a romance or a little bit more of a rom-com element too, was when I was writing this during COVID, and everything just felt so sad and so heavy. And I was like, I am a very cynical person actually, and I write a lot of dark stuff. And in that time, I found myself really leaning into the joy. And maybe a little bit at tiniest little bit of fluff, and a little just like, I was like, you know what? I think people are going to want to see them get together. And so that was very much a product of the times we were going through.
I think so. Yeah. So I think a bit of fluff is always good. So why not? And and we have some. So at Cinema Scholars, we know we have lots of readers and viewers who are really interested in getting into. So like I said at the very start, you're a quadruple threat with this. What would you advise someone who has this idea, who wants to make a short film, of course, wants to direct a feature film one day? Do you have any just words of inspiration, quick words of advice for them?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing that you can do, and this is easier said than done, but it's just start making things. I think you can read about movies or, study film as much as you want, but once you get on a set and start making things, that's like the real learning. And so, we all have little amazing cameras in our pockets now. Just get some friends, make a short film, make a little web series. You don't even have to put it anywhere, but just see what happens and see, you just have to have that determination to just keep making things.
I think so. So I've asked lots of directors the same thing. It is always just having that will and just, and also why not as well.
And the only way you can get better at anything is by doing. And of course, for filmmaking, that's so hard because it does require tremendous resources. But that's why, grab your cell phone and the sun, use your, natural light and go see what you can do. Again, you don't have to put it anywhere. It doesn't have to go on YouTube or anything, but just like start composing shots, see what happens.
Perfect words of advice. And also within the message of the film, we did have a World Mental Health Day just a few short days ago. If anyone is reading this or watching this, do you think, what would you give the advice to those people? Because you say you talked about your background, I briefly talked about mine. My advice would be just to talk to someone that you're not alone. But from your point of view, what would you like to add to that?
Absolutely the same thing. You are not alone. So many people around the globe have the same struggles you do. And talking to a therapist or a professional is so important. Also, being open with your family and friends if you can, if they're supportive. Just getting the weight off of your back, and you're not a burden to anybody if you need to share what's going on.
No, fantastic set of words of advice. Miss Frida, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed the movie just from a cinema scholar point of view.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Was she cute?
She's actually a little creepy. I accidentally looked in the window of her place last night.
She's creepy?
I don't know, there's something about her that's just weird. I can't quite put my finger on it, but she makes me nervous. Oh!
I was hoping I'd have a little bit more time to get to know you before.
Just please tell me.
We are a family of witches.
Okay. Okay, so you're not kidding.
Ms. Clark, how are you, ma'am?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm really good. Good morning to you. Good evening from me. So,
where are you?
I'm in the Middle East. I'm based in Doha, Qatar.
Oh, wow.
It's just gone 7 p.m. and I've just put my two boys to sleep, hence the dark. But witchy. But
yeah, it's very witchy.
Yeah. So let's start with that. We're talking witchy ways, of course. And I was sort of thinking in the lead up that witches are having a renaissance through your movie and Agatha All Along, for example. But then it hit me, they've never gone away. We've had them all through our lives, of course, being the first villain we ever meet is the Wicked Witch of the West. And we have Hocus Pocus, and we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and we have all these different movies. Why do you think we still go? And as a creator yourself, why do we go back to the witchcraft well, do you think?
That's a really good question. I think there's just something about the idea that an individual can have a power that controls something in their lives. It's one of the things that goes back to, like, there's a very large witch community that actually exists. They're self-identifying. And one of the sort of common themes between them all, because some are Wiccan, some are not, some are pagan, some are just have their own practice. But it goes back to that self-empowerment, that idea that you have the power within you. And I think that that's attractive to people. We like to have more power in our lives, Sometimes we feel helpless or hopeless or out of control. And so the idea that you have something you could harness, and, in past witch movies, there's a lot of harm that's done, with the exception of maybe like a Bewitched or something. Like, Bewitched is a positive image of a witch, but a lot of times it's not a positive image of a witch, which also goes against what most witches today are, but part of their philosophy is about, positive change and the earth and treating the earth well and animals well. And it's just interesting the way we've absorbed it. But I will tell you, I mean, I've also always had a love of watching anything with witches in it. And in fact, I had just watched the whole Discovery of Witches series right before I started thinking about what was my next project. So I know it bled into it. I just took it in a different direction, you know?
Yeah, I was going to ask, did the story of Eve and Danny form first, or the idea of, I want to do something with witches, or did it just come together perfectly and meld, just like Eve and Danny did?
I think, well, it started a little bit with a rudimentary idea. I want something with witches and something with a ghost. I have another film called Crazy Bitches, which was a horror comedy. And so I was thinking that maybe I should stay in that vein and kind of pursue that. But I was also doing this with my friend Miriam Hassler, who plays Danny. And so a lot of things came together. Her mother is a psychic, and she grew up in an environment of, you know, tarot and crystal and things like that. And so I was using her for ideas too, like, tell me about your past, tell me about your experience with your mom, tell me what your life is like as a kid. And all that started coming together. And then I just started watching a bunch of movies, and I landed on Practical Magic, which I forgot how much I loved. And that's when it all started clicking for me. But I had done so much work before that movie represented itself. I think it's just a collection of moments between December, when Miriam and I talked about doing something, and, you know, February, March, when I finally clicked into the space that I entered. So I think it was, in the end, a nice meld of moments that came together.
And what I like about the film is it's cine literate as well. It's sort of, like he talks about it. So stuff we've seen in the movies, the banging doors and the lights, those were all real, and they call themselves pet names for each other, Thelma and Louise, and things like that. Was that a conscious decision of yours that this could really happen? And these people have seen movies, because we've all seen these movies. And there's certain stereotypical things we see, like the flickering, the lights, and the door slamming, are a presence.
Yeah. No, I wanted to approach it as a very real thing. I did a lot of research on today's witch. Danny's a green witch. That's a category of witch that is practicing right now. And so I did a lot of research on today's witch, what their philosophies are, what could be possible, and then also a lot of research on ghosts, and like what is kind of the common accepted tropes of a ghost. They're rooted in things that have happened to people. They're not just made up out of Hollywood. So I wanted it to feel as absolutely real as it could possibly feel, while also layering a little bit of awareness on top of it. You know, I mean, I reference The Craft, Thelma and Louise, you know, it's like your classic best friend, relationship. And I wanted that for Penny and Eve. And so I was aware as I was putting these things into the movie, but at the same time, I wanted the base of it to feel absolutely real, absolutely organic. And even though Danny had some powers that maybe are a little heightened from reality, I was very thoughtful as I was building them into the script, and actually then into the edit. So once I finished the first edit, I started thinking to myself, what do I want? How far do I want to take this? Like, I don't want it to lose the sense that this could actually happen, you know? So I was very aware through the whole thing. It was an interesting process, actually.
Yeah, we don't really have too many spoilers away, but I just want to talk about how the character of Nina is represented with
the streak.
Yeah. So we had those, and we had some of Danny's powers become manifest. Why did you choose to make them physically special effect, if you like, as opposed to leaving it up to like the Force in Star Wars, where it's unseen but you're aware of its power? Why did you make that choice about things like that?
I mean, at a general level, I think some of it was influenced by Practical Magic and the way they dealt with their magic. But I also thought, you know, Nina was a little girl when she died. You know, she was 12. And if you leave it up to the audience, there's a tendency to go to darkness right away. There's a ghost in the house and they're dangerous and they're scary. And I wanted to make sure that the audience understood she was still a 12-year-old girl having fun, goofing around, and still had the spirit of a 12-year-old and the kind of, my husband likes to call it Tinkerbell, like that little Tinkerbell effect seemed to lend itself to that. And then I also wanted her to appear as a ghost in more human form because I wanted the audience to feel the attachment of Danny and Nina. Their relationship is incredibly important. This film is, on the surface, it's a rom-com and there's a love story and all that stuff, but it's just as equally important because it's about family, family love, relationships between parents and children, siblings. And it's also about friendship. And so without showing Nina, I felt like we would lose the joy she has as a child, even though she's no longer around, and B, the connection between her and Danny, which in the end needs to be there to make the end work. So.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, definitely. Because we have to get that sense of mischief for sure. And like you say, if it was all slamming George, something like what lies beneath going on here for sure. Right. Yeah, so you have to keep that. That's a really nice touch. Yeah, for sure. And so let's talk about the leads. They're so perfect in this film. So, like you say, which I didn't know before. So you knew Miriam Hassler before, and she was like your witchcraft consultant. Is that right?
Sort of. It's interesting because actually I originally wrote the role of Eve for Miriam because I wanted her to have the lead, and Eve is the larger role. And then we had cast somebody else for the witch, and it was actually an actress I'm working with on something else, and she is actually a witch, and I loved that symmetry. But she had to drop out at the last minute. And Miriam said to me, Jane, why don't I take the role of the witch? It's a smaller role, and then we can open up the other role for maybe more of a named person. And then when we both said, yeah, that's a great idea, we both realized she actually was Danny. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had to her all along. And so that moment that happened that, which was at first very disappointing when this actress dropped out, became a benefit to me. And then I went back and I did this sort of look through. I wanted a lesbian to play the lesbian. I wanted to make sure we were, standing true to that. And I looked up, lesbian actresses, top 100, whatever. And Diora popped up, and I haven't done that list before, and I've never seen her. And as soon as she popped up, I was like, oh my God, please tell me she can act, because this could not be better. And then, we took a little bit of a flyer on whether there was going to be energy there, whether they were going to have chemistry. But having talked to Dior and spent a little time with her and knowing Miriam well, I felt like there was going to be a nice gelling because they're a little bit different, but also they both come from this very loving space. And then it really just worked. They're also both very, very good actresses. And we had a very joyous set. And I think that lends itself to actors having a bond or some sort of chemistry together, But yeah, it feels real. Their relationship really, really feels real, I think.
Oh yeah, it seems to be very organic, just obviously down to your writing and direction as well, but obviously a lot of warmth and just normal things like the flirting and the awkwardness and things like that. It's like, oh, you guys.
Yeah.
But just one sort of question. So obviously they're older actresses. Was there ever any thought in your mind to go younger and go for some hot chicks and have something like Wild Things, like Neve Campbell and Denise Richards, or are you sticking to something real life? What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't even think twice. That wasn't even part of my reasoning at all. I mean, I started with Miriam. I mean, we've always wanted to work together. So, I mean, I could have written an older role for her and brought two younger girls in, but that's not my reality. And so, like, why does everything have to be young chicks running around? Do you know what I mean? These women are absolutely drop dead gorgeous. They're absolutely drop dead gorgeous. The sex scenes are hot. You don't need to be 20 to actually have people agree with that, And it was interesting because I was at a festival last week, and this 21, 22, 23-year-old guy comes up to me and we were chatting, and he said, you know what I thought was really fresh about your movie? I mean, I thought it was really fresh that you had older women. And I was like, okay, I guess it is fresh. And then he kind of felt bad. He said older, and I was like, oh, it's okay. Like we're not blind, but he's like, but you're just used to these young girls running around in these movies like this. And I was like, yeah, I just didn't. But no, it didn't even occur to me that I should do that. And maybe from a sales point of view, people would say, oh, you're better off and you'll sell more. But I think that that's in the salesperson's mind. I don't think that's in the public mind. I think the public wants to see a good movie and be taken on a ride. And it's not like they're 80 and they're having sex. It's, you know what I mean? It's two gorgeous women. So, and it felt real because it also gave them history. It made them deeper. They'd been through relationships or felt very alone because they couldn't have a relationship. In Danny's case, she was very bound to where she was living. And I think that long history of experience also lends itself to a deepening of character that you wouldn't have with a 25-year-old,
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. 100% agree. And I just want to touch on how has the festival circuit been treating the movie so far?
So far, so good. In all honesty, I hadn't intended to do the festival circuit. I didn't make a festival movie, if that makes sense. I made everything I did was with the goal of making a commercial film. Sort of a general public rom-com, something that anybody could go see and enjoy. And festival movies tend to go, they are either looking for a message or they need it really skewed toward like if it's LGBTQ, they want it about that community, or, they tend to be more myopic in a way, looking for very specific things. And so I was like, nah, that's not what I want to make. But my sales agent's like, you got to get pull quotes. You have to do press. You want people talking. You want the laurels. You need to, when we go in to sell it at AFM, they need to know that other people like it and other people care about it. You know what I mean? And I thought, okay, fine. So unfortunately, we were out of money. So I just started saying, hi, this is me. Can I get a fee waiver? Hi, you don't know me, but I could really use a fee waiver. And some people have been kind enough to do that. And some of my regular places have taken us into. So so far, the audience reaction has been like really, really good. And we've had a really nice mixed crowd. I mean, men like it as well as women, LGBTQ. We've had witches in the audience who are like over the moon about it. So I'm feeling very confident at this point that I think that the majority of people that watch it will enjoy it and get something out of it. Yeah.
Great. Long may that continue. And I look forward to sharing it with our readers and viewers. Jen, and best of luck with the movie and its release. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Are You Not Qatartained? The interviews are brought to you by Qatartainment. As I go to print right now, we're at 14,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed and following and supporting our channel. If you haven't already, where are you at? Get subscribing. If you're listening on Spotify right now, please follow. And anywhere you come across Qatartainment, please like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment, say hi in the street. We really, really appreciate it. And I hope you've been Qatartained, or as Russell Crowe should say,
Are you not entertained?